Welcome everyone into this sacred space. We're here for a journey to connect more deeply with ourselves, with our deepest source. And through this connection, we also connect with each other. So although we are located in different points in space, we can actually tap into this more mysterious grid of light that connects us all. And when we do so, we connect not only to an optimizing force, if you will, of presence that catalyzes the collective forward into more unknowing vistas of perception and realization. It also helps each of us heal our own personal places of wounding. So we're calling these gatherings transmissions, and I just want to begin this journey together with saying a word or two about how I'm holding this. Because some of you, we've spent time together in other learning contexts, in other forms of teaching and exploration. And this, in some sense, is a new set of offerings. We're talking about light codes and all this sort of languaging of things that are perhaps, not a common way that I have shared teachings before. So in my experience, there's both a set of functions to transmission and also a set of methods. And each function of the transmission, you could say, has a use case for different methodologies. Yeah. So some of the functions of transmissions are healing, right? We've probably all experienced at some point a healing transmission of some kind. It could be even just as simple as the presence of a loved one in a time of suffering, where their state of being in some sense transmits a frequency that assists in our own process, in our own healing. Or it could be more explicit. It could be a healer who's actually transmitting light or energy or presence or chi or whatnot. It's a form of transmission, both indirect and direct, that has to do with healing. And this healing transmission can happen both on the personal level, but also on the collective. So there could be collective expressions of transmission, of healing. Yeah, in some traditions, when people are praying, they're not just praying for themselves and their loved ones, they're praying for the whole, right? For the planet, for the well-being of humanity, of Earth, of all living beings. And the transmission of those frequencies of those prayers can emanate out and affect the planet, affect the world. So another form of transmission. Another function of transmission is not in the healing domain, but in the awakening domain, right? It has to do more with the journey of spiritual awakening to more clear forms of perception, like actually perceiving reality more clearly, more as it is, not obscured or clouded or distorted by the conditioned mind. The journey of awakening can also be through more of the heart center, right? Through a devotional path of awakening to union with the divine or with the light, right? And so the function of transmission can be to assist in that process, to assist in clearing out the cobwebs, right? To help clear the pathways of perception so that we can actually wake up. But in the domain of awakening, transmission also works in the path of waking down, right? Which some of us have been exploring together. Waking down is not just waking up to perceive the reality more clearly, but it's also embodying that, integrating that into our life, into our flesh, so that we can live and act and speak with each other from the wisdom of that realization. Yeah, that's waking down into ourselves more fully, filling out the embodied presence of our being and living that. That's another form of awakening. And again, the awakening can happen both on the personal level and also on the collective level. And so transmission has a function, it has a role in that. When we have a teacher or a friend who assists us, right, through their presence, through their words, through their light, in helping us perceive reality more clearly, then they are transmitting something true, something real through the vibrations of the field, and we are impacted by that, and it affects us. So those are the two main, you could say, arenas within which transmission functions. And I would add a third one, because it pertains to what we're doing here today. The third domain has to do, I would say, with something I would call something like acceleration or amplification. And this function has to do with really kind of taking the healing or the awakening that is already present, and in some sense extending it, amplifying it, maximizing it through what I've been calling sort of the grids of light, right? Through the planetary channels of presence, so that the collective can undergo a more radical kind of transformation. Not just the collective, but also personally too, individually. So there's a place for amplification in the kind of spectrum of transmissional processes. Acceleration. And again, it could happen both on an individual and a collective level. Okay? So we have healing, we have awakening, we have acceleration. Each of which can occur both on an individual and a collective level to various degrees. Now the mechanisms is more the method, right? The mechanisms of transmission can happen in all kinds of ways. I mentioned some of them, right? It can happen through speech, through words. It could happen through silence, through presence, just through the vibrations of one's being, through the state that one is embodying. It kind of, it emanates into the field, produces a certain kind of tone or texture, right, in the field, and that then is absorbed by our subtle cells, and we receive the impact of that. And again, various degrees of this, from a friend sitting beside us to a teacher sort of more intentionally magnetizing the field with a certain intention, a certain state of realization. Right. Or it could happen even more subtly. It could happen not from embodied forms, but from, light forms, through forces of light that are not as easily perceived, but are nonetheless operating. And those forces of light can also communicate through various means, yeah, through speech, through fleshing, embodying, incarnating itself into life forms who then carry that transmission. Right. And then it happens in more mysterious ways that are more imperceivable to not only to the ordinary eye, but even to the awakened eye. That it can be quite subtle. Yeah. For most people, they recognize the impact more than they do the actual forces of light themselves. They feel more of the effects. Yeah. And to conclude this intro, these forces can also transmit through imparting specific, you could say, codes, so I'm calling light codes, or specific forms of light, structures of light that carry certain wisdom, carry certain effects for consciousness and also for the body. So there's a wide spectrum of possibilities here, right? And now some of you, I think this may be your first time joining us, and so we work with all the variations of transmission, all the possibilities. Transmission can happen just through a simple teaching, like right now, just sort of sharing something, and yet there's a certain quality, a texture, tone, a vibration that's present. And so if you're listening with your presence, with your being, if you're sort of feeling into, connecting with the inner space and feeling into, then there's information that's present that's not conveyed through concepts, that's not being conveyed through the words in the conventional meaning of them. So in this particular set of transmissions, and today we'll kind of continue to tap into this, we're working more with the third category of transmission, that of acceleration, amplification. And we have other opportunities, which hopefully, if you're new to sort of joining me in these kinds of things, we'll have other opportunities to explore the other categories of transmissions and the different kinds of awakening and, other kinds of teachings that kind of work with waking up and waking down and waking sideways and diagonally and every which way, right? And for today, because I'm sort of working with a team of light emanations, you could say, of non-dimensional light emanations, there's a certain kind of movement or momentum that is coming through from these hidden realms to Earth, to humanity at this time, that is related to a kind of juncture that we're at as human beings in our evolutionary process, where there's more of a radical shifting that is being called for. And I know many of you are probably experiencing this in your own personal lives in various ways. And so we are sort of wanting to assist this process for the benefit of all beings, for the goodness of the whole, for the betterment of the collective, to optimize, to accelerate, and to amplify the light of goodness, of peace, of love, of blessings. That is here already, but still in need of some, some nourishment, quite a bit of nourishment, quite a bit of, infusion. It's kind of like when you have a cord, a power cord, and what is the ampage? That's what is the ampage of the current that's flowing through that's animating, that's enlivening the device. Well, we are a human collective, interconnected, really, and we want that power source, to be strong. We want the current that flows through our veins to be of the purest light, of a real, in a way, so that each of us can become light extenders, like Wi-Fi extenders, right? Where we each become then a vehicle of transmission into the world in ever more profound ways. Yeah. And so these light codes are really focused on the process of supporting, enhancing, and optimizing, maximizing the light that is already present within. In order to assist the collective in its healing, awakening process. And so we've done 3 codes so far, and this is our 4th. So I want to begin the transmission part of it by inviting everyone to take a moment to just check in with yourself. See where you are with this, what I'm sharing right now. Like, does this feel okay to be here, to participate in this with soul open, with heart open? And if it doesn't, that's totally okay, right? That's perfect. We want everyone to honor their own nervous systems and their truth, right? And this may not be the right day for this for you, and that's totally fine. We'll have other opportunities. You could try again or not, right? And if you're feeling an inner yes right now, then I want to invite you to take a moment to feel into that yes. Like, feel in your body, like take a moment to actually sense into it in your body. Where do you feel that? And if you feel a no also, you can experiment with this. Feel into that no and feel that in your body. And as you feel, just stay with it and take a few breaths. Take a few breaths into it. And with each breath, as you feel into it, also allow your presence, your consciousness, like the center of gravity of your being, to kind of drop in more deeply. Settle in. Settle into this yes space. And with the assistance of the emanations of light that are here and their accelerating potential, the mind is going to now quiet in a more accelerated way. So as with each breath, as you exhale, allow the consciousness to drop in and the thinking mind to become more and more silent. With each in-breath, feel into that yes, that openness, that presence within in the core. And with each out-breath, drop into more of a space of being, of non-thinking, just presencing at the very center. With each in-breath, feel into that core of light, the center of your being. And with each out-breath, drop more deeply into this inner space. Now, with more silence and stillness present in the field, allow your whole body, soul, with each breath to absorb itself more into this silent presence, the utter stillness of being. As each of us and the whole collective field here attunes itself to the frequencies of the non-dimensional light, stay as present as you can in this inner silence, allowing your awareness, your presence, to anchor itself in the ground of being. So you feel your whole being tethered to the spacious, still ground, absorbed in it. We, as emanations of the pure light, the light that transcends time, space, wish to share today a structure of light that will assist in the repair of the human collective. In the unknown realities, the time-space continuum bends. It is not static and it is not bound. We wish for this wisdom to be more available on Earth, for it allows for a quantum repair to occur. Each one of you has a past, a history of events, of occurrences, of wounds. Accumulating in time, space, affecting suffering of various kinds. It is possible through the wisdom of this light code to transform and repair all events, wounds, and suffering occurring in the spectrum of time, occurring across the points of space. In the deep stillness and silence of being, a subtle structure of light appears. Allow it to display itself in your inner eye, in your inner soul, in the inner space with which you are connected to at this time. The quantum repair code, when installed in the body-mind, permits a transformation of events that occurred in time. As you stay present in this space, allow this quantum code to enter into, to penetrate, to touch into the very substance of the light body, the subtle body that interfaces with the physicality. There's nothing to do here but to breathe, allow, and notice. These are gifts and offerings from allies here to assist for the good of the whole. as it interfaces with the bodies of light. It affects the imprints on the genetic mechanisms of cellular memory, releasing and freeing the hold that the cellular material has on the past and its various wounds, imprints of pain. With its radical attunement to the present moment, the wisdom of this light code as we speak is reconfiguring, reorganizing the way our body minds have related to all that has transpired, neutralizing the charge, freeing its effects from the spacious freedom of our bodies of light. Continue to just breathe, allow, and notice what is occurring in this moment. There may be a sense of something shifting or disappearing that was once there. It may be quite subtle. It may be quite obvious. We are present with each one of you and the whole field at this time, infusing the light codes with the emanations of the good, purest, most good light of the reality from which we are emanating. Allow the light codes to serve as keys, as portals for this light to continue to infuse your whole system now. Feel it saturate the body, the cells. And while this occurs for each individual, the collective grids of light are also receiving an infusion of this freeing light. Releasing the collective from the bonds of time. Allowing the past to transform in the light of the present. as the grids of light are amplified and accelerated with this light, notice what you experience as an individual as you are linked into and plugged into this grid. Continue to breathe, full breaths. Wow. Stay anchored to the inner light, tethered to the spacious stillness of being. Allow that which no longer serves to be absorbed in this non-dimensional light of freedom. Allow the repair to occur now on even more subtle levels. The wound dust that's left over in the corners of our soul is now being absorbed. We are very grateful for each of you that has shown up today to participate in this process of collective healing, awakening, and amplification. We wish to install this wisdom in the body, souls, through the portals of light that each of you are, to support this time of human awakening. The codes of light that are available now also serve as prisms of light through which this light can shine into the world, touch others, and continue this collective process of evolution. We will continue to be in support of each one of you as you take this presence home into your everyday life. May this light be a blessing for all. Okay. So just notice what you're experiencing right now. Take a snapshot of your state, your presence. And then slowly opening your ears, coming back to more of a sense of hearing, and opening the eyes and noticing colors and shapes and images. See what it's like to continue to stay as much as feels comfortable, present and connected and anchored in this inner world of light and of presence, even as we begin to include the phenomenal world of appearance. So we don't go anywhere, we stay connected to the grids of light, even as we perceive that. Which is outside of ourselves, so to speak. See what this is like, what you notice, how it feels. How is your perception? What is it like? Is it different, the same? Do you notice anything different about your experience of yourself and your body? What do you notice? So in a word, what would that word be? Lightness, peace, expansion, ecstasy, open. Some of you are sharing in the chat. Infusion, spacious, effortlessness, resourced, magical, more infusion, humming, centered, quiet, radiance, joy, thread, pure, expansion, amplification, spaciousness, body aliveness, paused, connection, column, love. Yeah. So there's, this is a very, very personal process. And what we've noticed from the last few transmissions is that it could have an effect on the body. So you may start to feel floating bliss. You may start to feel, if you might have felt it during, actually, some people report feeling kind of really sleepy, really tired, like almost you got it knocked out. So if that's happening, and you have space for it, taking a nap is a good thing. It's integrative. This is part of the awakening from above teachings, right? So our perspective. So we just have to learn to receive in this particular approach. So taking a nap is actually sleep is a profound state of being. That's very integrative. Some of you may experience other things in the body, like sensations, things unfamiliar, or perceptions, subtle perceptions that maybe are new. So just kind of ride with that, keep breathing with it, and see what the effects are over the next few days. Keep a journal if that helps integrate the process. Take care of your system, of your nervous system. Okay, because you know, like for some of you, it's like very kind of explicit, the impact. Yeah, you feel it right away. And for others, it's going to be very, very subtle. You may not even be aware of something really right now. So you'll be more aware maybe of the effects of it over time. But the nervous system is impacted by the field and by the presence and by the emanations, of light. It's actually, it's very refined, so it's maybe not as obvious, but it's actually very powerful. So the nervous system could almost have like a kind of reaction sometimes some people have where it's kind of like there's been a reconfiguration, a reorganization, and the nervous system wants to go back to the familiar. It's kind of, it feels safe in the old configuration, once they sort of reconfigure back. So that's fine. You can just watch that, notice that, and there's nothing wrong. That's what I'm saying. It's, even reconfiguring, it could take some time for the changes to really integrate. Let's see. I'm just seeing if there's any questions. So. Yeah, so the suggestions are to continue this practice of interconnection, of allowing, using the breath as a support. They're kind of using the mechanism of the breath to support an ongoing process here. So it's not just arbitrary. And, resourcing from your awareness practices, So most people, I'm assuming here, have some kind of a practice, some kind of a path that you're engaging in. So the sort of message I'm getting is, if you continue to align with this code, right, you will see a kind of subtle shifting of your relationship to the imprints of the past, to the wounding of the past. Is kind of bend the time and space a bit to allow the past to come into the present, if you will. It is in the present, but more consciously, more directly and explicitly, and decathect the nervous system from those charged events. So, with God's help and the assistance of the emanations of divine light, may all of us, each of us, and all of us experience a true repair, true quantum repair that extends across the spectrum of time and space, and provides us with a true freedom, a freedom from all forces, all imprints that keep us, in some sense, disconnected from the potential that is our birthright, from the light that is our nature. And with this blessing, may all beings, all of Earth, may the human collective grid of light also know the freedom of true healing. Thank you all so much So much blessing and love and light to you this time. And I look forward to seeing you next week.